Hello, everybody. All right, so we're talking about water meter presentation, correct, Danielle? Obviously, I've got some gentlemen here.
Yes,
Sorry.
so we have Daryl and Andre who are here with USG. And they will be doing a meter presentation for meter replacement, I guess, project presentation. And I'll kind of turn it over to them. And then I know that they're going to give you guys an opportunity for questions. And of course, if you have any of myself as well, let me know.
Great. Thank you. Again, my name is Daryl Bowling. I'm with Utility Service Group, USG. You probably know us already because we actually do maintain your water tower here in town as well under asset management program. So yes, we are the same ones that do maintain your tank. So we want to first of all say thank you for that. Thank you for your current business for that. Tonight we are going to be talking about water meters. And again, I'm Daryl, your local person. I also have with me tonight is Andre Noel. Andre is Director of Revenue Management for us for metering services. So I'll kind of get things kicked off a little bit here, then Andre will continue on and dig deeper into the meters and the presentations along the way. So table of contents, we're going to get a little bit about who is USG, a little bit of an industry overview, talk about the advanced metering infrastructure, propagation model, go ahead on that briefly, project overview, and then why USG is a solution, okay? So Utility Service Group, largest AMI provider in North America, 100,000 smart meters installed in the United States, 400 square miles of coverage that we have, 400,000 people are served by us, 40 municipalities, 99% read rate on our metering processes. And Andre will dig into a lot of those items as we continue on, okay? Again, a little bit about who we are. We are one of the largest asset management solutions providers in the United States. We have about 4,000 municipal and industrial customers today, about 8,000 water assets that we manage. There's 40 system consultants like myself that run around the U.S. and we are technically and financially very, very strong as well. The 5 lines of business, and you're already aware of one, which is the water tank side. Again, which we appreciate burdening you on that. We also do a lot of concrete tanks. We do a lot of water quality, tank mixing, chlorine residual inside the tanks, making sure everything is working properly. Everything with TRS, which is methane removal systems. We do a lot of concrete and treatment plant rehabilitation projects. Distribution system services we do is SIPP. It's a spray in place pipelining process that we do a lot of as well. And then finally, we do also a lot of our obviously is AMI metering systems, which we'll be digging into as well. So a little bit of overview. I'll let Andre take over from here. Andre obviously has like 140 years of experience in this industry. Obviously, I do not. So at this point, I'm gonna let Andre kind of take it and share part of his 140 years of experience that he has in the industry.
Where's my cane?
Thank you, sir.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to be with you this evening. Again, as Daryl mentioned, my name is Andre Noel. I'm the Director of Revenue Management and Metering Services for Utility Service Group. I kind of have a unique role. I have responsibilities for Utility Service Group, but as many of you may know, we used to be a part of a company called Suez and Veolia at one time. And I'm also their subject matter expert for AMI solutions. And so that gives me a unique perspective because as a company, we don't represent any manufacturer. So because we own and operate AMI systems, in other words, we are in fact the largest owner of AMI systems, we're the largest operator of AMI systems, and we're the largest maintainer of AMI systems. So we come to you not only as a provider of solutions, but also as a customer. We also use these systems every single day. So that gives us kind of a unique perspective because we have all these systems. And so that allows us to design and select the best system for you, not what is best for the manufacturer. Because if I represent a manufacturer, guess what solution you're going to get? Exactly. You're going to get whatever I'm providing today on whoever I represent today. But with the Utility Service Group, the benefit that we have is with our consultants, we have the ability of selecting the best solution for you. Because 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 again, just because you make a great water meter, doesn't mean you make a great AMI system. Or just because you make a great AMI system, means you make a great water meter. So we can select from the best, we mix and match to provide you with the best solution for you. So Daryl introduced a slide about water utilities. This is kind of a perspective I've developed over the years, talking about some of the issues that we deal with as a water utility. And I put this up here for you to have a look at as well, to see if you're dealing with some of these issues. Please tell me you're not dealing with every single one of them, otherwise it's gonna be a long evening. But, you know, the ones that we come across, especially, is non-revenue water. What's happening? Our water meter infrastructure is getting up there in age. It's not registering the water very accurately. And so as a result of that, we are losing revenue significantly. I mean, I haven't looked at your numbers for the year, but I suspect that every year your revenue numbers are dropping off. One of the reasons obviously is leaks, but the vast majority of it is the accuracy of your meters. Your meters have gone up there in age, these cash registers. And so they need to be replaced, because that's what generates the revenue to the village and helps fund a lot of the things that you do. The other issue we run into is resources. We can't find resources. You know, what's going on? You know, believe it or not, I actually retired. I retired in 2013. Let's see how that turned out. They couldn't find subject matter experts. So just to let you know, you are all subject matter experts in your respective roles and responsibilities. You're not getting to retire, because what's happening, the next generation doesn't want to come behind us and do metering. They don't want to read water meters. They don't want to be in public work. So what does that mean? That's important, because our most important function that we do as a village, as we do as a utility, is bill. But what's happening to, the, resources? Again, they're not coming in, and that's important, because right now the current resources, they look like me. They got no hair or gray hair, and we're moving on. Right, we're moving on, but nobody's coming back behind us to fill. And so resources is becoming important. So automating your metering now becomes even more important, because we don't have the resources to go and do rereads, move in, move out, shut offs, things of that nature. And then of course, customer service. What's happening with customer service? If you ever want to, as my father would say, taste a little bit of humble pie, send out the water bills and then go sit in customer service and wait for the calls. I assure you, they're not calling you to say, the village of Blissfield, you've got the best water on earth. I have a feeling that's not what they're calling for. And when you receive some of those calls, it's unfortunately the person on the other end, they're always having to be reactive. Always have to react, because that's the best that we've got. We don't have any solutions to allow us to be proactive. But with AMI, we can get you there. So why the move to AMI with a change out of your water meters? Why is this happening? Well, today, the way you read meters is manually. So you manually may read the meters, you lift the lid, and you read the water meter. But whether you read it manually, whether you use automatic meter reading where you drive and the information underneath you only get one meter reading per billing period. That's it. One meter reading per billing period. Okay. So with that piece of information, you may have a customer that calls and says, whoa, I never used all that water. Then again, that probably never happens here. I never used all that water. When did I use all that water? Show me I used all that water. You only have one piece of information to decipher what is going on. That's it. And unfortunately, you can't just do that. The best you can do is say, you know what? Well, most likely you have a leak. Please contact a plumber. Maybe they can come out. Of course, they're cheap these days. Let's get the plumber, identify where the leak is, and then lo and behold, bring that in, and just maybe we'll apply a credit or put you on a payment plan to cover the bill. The reason why many are moving from that to AMI, because instead of getting one meter reading per billing period, you are now going to get one meter reading every single hour of every single day. So during our conversation today, you will have as many as 2, if not more, meter readings from every single water meter in the village. So right now, I know that you left your hose on, you're watering the yard. You're filling your pool. Oh, looks like somebody's having a party at your place. I can tell what's going on. Oh, that flapper in that commode, it's not seating properly. Someone is taking water from your home. We can identify right now what in fact is going on. And so as a result of that now changes everything. instead of being reactive, I can be proactive, helping customers, helping residents, owners of property. I can let them know right now what is going on. And that, of course, is certainly beneficial. So with AMI, the question always comes, well, how is this technology? Well, with this technology, what we're looking to do is we want to replace all your water meters because they are, of course, your cash register. And then we're going to put a meter transmitting unit with these meters. So we'll either put it inside the basement with the meters or we'll put them on the outside wall. These transmitting units, what they do is they read the meter every hour. And then they take that information and they transmit it to a data collector. And that data collector we're going to place on top of a water tower or put it on typically just get the antenna 30 feet on an electric pole. That information will come from the water meters and of course, as I said, gets transmitted to the data collector. From the data collector, we're going to send that information to the cloud. So you'll be able to access all the meter reads from any device that connects to the internet. So whether it's your cell phone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's your computer, any device whatsoever. The other benefit of AMI these days is not only does the information from the water meter come up to you. Today, you can ask for information from the water meter. So I can talk to every water meter. And I can ask it, what is your read right now? That saves me from deploying resources to go out and do a reread. What if somebody's moving in? Normally, I got to send out resources to get the move in. Not anymore. Call up the meter. Ask it what its read is right now. What about a move out? What about a shop? All that now is available with AMI. In fact, you have a system not too far from here, Brooklyn, Michigan. They've got a little over, I think, right, 600 meters. Every single one of those meters will have remote shutoffs. They wanted to be very proactive with their system. So this system is very powerful because it allows you to now get information from the water meters, but also now communicate back to the water meters. And that information now transforms the village instead of being reactive into a very proactive village where you can now start helping residents each and every day. And the system is very powerful because what I mean by that is it can grow as your needs grow. So it can grow from this and it can grow into this if you choose. If you want to have an infrastructure in place to protect your electric and your gas, this system will do that. If you want to look at sanitary sewer overflows, leak detection, methane detection, pressure monitoring, the system will grow however you want it to grow. Where we are up in New Jersey, we have streetlights. We're now looking at parking meters for our AMI system. So the system is very powerful if you need it to be. So here are all the benefits, and there's quite a number of them, but it benefits everyone in the organization, from customer service to billing to operations to management. I like to come in and look at the AMI system. I like to see how much water, in fact, has come from the water treatment plant into distribution. I also want to see how much water is from distribution has been used that day. Because now I can see right now, whoa, it looks like we're having a very good month. It looks like a lot of usage is taking place. And I can use that for my rate studies that I have to do at the end of the year. I can start looking at it to see if I need to start looking at different capital requirements, whether I need to start looking at different sources for water because of all the usage that may be taking place. But now I have a pretty good snapshot and instant indication of what is in fact going on in my water system, because now I've got information from the water meters every single day. So with a system like this, one of the benefits certainly are you're going to release individuals from having to read water meters. So now I can use these individuals for higher priority items, because again, I can focus them on other areas of distribution where I originally hired them for. So now I can focus them in other areas, and that frees up those resources, which is of course certainly very, very valuable. Customer service. Your customer service now becomes what I like to say superior. In fact, I would call it outstanding, because now with this customer service, you can do a lot of things. You can start looking at flexible billing if you wish. You know, one of the things we found out that, with some of the non-payments was because, customers got paid on the 1st, we sent out our bill on the 5th. They got no money by the 5th. So how would you like to, if your billing system allows, when would you like us to send you the bill? Things like that, for example. One thing we found out recently from the mayor in Hodgenville, Kentucky, which by the way is the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, so if anyone's taking notes, it's not in Illinois. It's actually here in Hodgenville, Kentucky. But the mayor noticed this situation that was going on. The city clerk, building clerk, noticed that a customer was in fact using a lot of water, 200 gallons of water an hour. They thought this was, quite unusual for this individual. And so what they did was they decided to have the police come over for a wellness check. Come to find out that this lady's caregiver, which was her husband, passed away in the home. And she had Alzheimer's. So she, of course, wasn't aware of her surroundings and the situation. They are convinced that if it wasn't for this AMI system and they making that wellness check, that she in fact would have passed away as well. So the mayor wanted to pass on to you that this system is also a health and safety monitoring system as well. In fact, if we have an aging population, that's one of the benefits we can use. That's one of the ways we can use this system as well to identify, instances where there's a lot of usage, or what if there's no usage for many, many days, and that it's an older population and there's no usage whatsoever. Maybe it also deserves a wellness check as well. So the system is very, very powerful in what it can do. And so with our solution, what we're looking to do is not only change out your meters and set up this AMI system, but our promise to you is we will also take care of it. We will take care of the operations of this system, the maintenance of this system, all under our asset management program. We've been doing that for your tanks for many, many years. In fact, with us taking care of your tanks, you probably never even worry about your tanks, because lo and behold, we've been taking care of it for so many years. And so it'll be no different with this system. It's your system, just like it's your water tank, but we're here also to take care of it so that under an asset management program, you're truly going to get the full life of this system, what we bring to you. So, as I mentioned on the outset, we don't represent any particular manufacturer. So with that, we went through an evaluation to take a look at what would be the best system for the village. So we received some information from you based on a questionnaire. We took that information and we used that to take a look at a number of systems out there. But without going through all the systems, the one that we did settle on for you is the Aclara RF system. And Aclara is a system, they were actually the first to bring AMI to the country. The first AMI system, in fact, is in Canton, Ohio, and is still operating today. So with the Aclara RF system, we selected this for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a full service two-way system. Number two, it's an open system. And what I mean by an open system is you can use anybody's meters, anybody's products with this system. You are not locked in to any particular manufacturer. I kind of joke, it's I have an iPad in the world of Apple. But just to let you know, when you're in the world of Apple, you're not getting out of it. Everything has to be Apple. In the case of the Aclara system, it's the opposite. You can select, you can mix and match, you can choose the meter is best for you, because someday you may like a particular manufacturer, you may want to try out different ones, you may want to mix and match. The choice is yours. The system has that ability. It's also a licensed frequency. So the frequency will belong to the village. It's your frequency. That's also beneficial to you because it means it's protected, it's encrypted, and it belongs to you. The frequency is in your name. It's talk about low-cost infrastructure. We designed the system with redundancy so that if the data collector was to come offline, we'd have the ability, it would not affect your ability to get all of your meter reads. Plus, it gives a company, I know of a company that's very good at climbing water towers, it gives them time to go up and take care of any issues that you have with the data collector. So we built the system with redundancy. This system also has the ability to have a customer portal, should you wish. That also allows the customer, the residents, to actually see their own usage. So if they decide to travel, maybe they go south, they can see indications of what in fact is happening on, from an app on their phone. So again, the system is very powerful in that sense as well. Yeah. From the water meter perspective, we selected a static meter, an ultrasonic, a meter that has no moving parts. The benefit of this type of meter is it allows us to maintain your revenue over the entire life of the meter. So today you have meters that are dropping off in accuracy, but with this meter, you are guaranteed 20 years of it's going to maintain its accuracy. And that's very important because of the village, we want to always maintain and maximize the revenue from your cash registers, namely your water meters. And so with these meters, we're able to do that. And any larger meters that you have, we're also able to put a static meter in there as well. And again, maximizing the revenue for the village. This meter has a lot of functionalities. We call it a smart meter because it can do a lot of smart things. One of the things in particular, I'm not going to go through all of them in detail, but one, for example, is if it's empty. And you may say, well, why do I want to know if a water meter is empty? Well, if a water meter is empty, well, how are they getting water? Right? 9 times out of 10, they took the water meter, they physically took it out of line, and they put a straight pipe in it. Well, I now can tell that you have done that. And so that I charge accordingly for that. But there are certain instances, especially up here in north, where we have a requirement to drain a water meter. So say, for example, we have cottages. We have to winterize the property. When we winterize the property, one of the requirements is drain the water meter. But if I'm living up here in Blissfield and I'm going to Florida, and I'm doing my list of things to do as I'm heading to Florida, you know, my bathing suits, you know, I want to make sure I got my jogging. Where is drain the water meter on the list of things to do? It's not, yeah, it's most likely not there. So if I head to Florida and then lo and behold, a freeze takes place, that water meter freeze blows out the bottom cap, water everywhere. I'm going to come home and I'm going to say, what happened here? Well, it looks like the village owes me a water meter. The village is going to ask me, did I drain the water meter? I'm going to hum and haw, but you'll have it on your system that says, you know what, that water meter was still full. It never showed empty. Therefore, you did not drain your water meter. Therefore, Andre, you're about to buy a new water meter. So again, very, very powerful system and some of the things that it can do, but that's just an example.
Okay.
Mhm.
You had mentioned earlier in the presentation that if there was no water flow through the meter, you could perhaps do a wellness check. So if somebody in your scenario does go to Florida, they're not going to be using water. So would that prompt then the village to reach out to them and say, reach out to the customer and say, hey, are you guys in town or what's going on? Oh, you're in Florida now? Okay, so can you drain the meter remotely?
So you wouldn't drain the water meter, you would have to get access to the property to drain that water meter in that situation, or if they've left a key to a neighbor or anything like that to get access to the property. But at least you'll know that they did not drain the water meter, and so that is certainly important to know. Of course, should a deep freeze occur and the bottom cap blows out, you're going to know pretty quickly through the system that all of a sudden you've got a burst. And so you'll see all this unusual water flowing through this meter. You know that lo and behold, the meter did freeze, it blew out the bottom cap, and someone needs to go shut the water off. And so you'll have that indication as well. If the customer has a customer portal, they'll know that too. We had a situation in Tennessee where we had a lady, she went from Tennessee, she took a trip up to Pennsylvania. While she was away, the water line froze underneath her driveway. Of course, 20 gallons per minute, just going straight to ground. When she came back, because this city bills quarterly. Anybody want to take a guess at what the bill was when you were trying to get $6,000. $6,000. Needless to say, she didn't pay the bill because she had the insurance involved. She had to come back to the city for forgiveness, all sorts of things. But again, now that they have a AMI system, this situation will never occur again because she'll know right now that, well, I've got unusual water activity. Somebody shut the water off. I'll have the utility come out and take a look at it. But that situation goes away. And of course, that means that no one will come into council and asking for, hey, I need an adjustment on my bill.
Will that automatically alert them on their phone?
Yes.
You'll just push it right through
Yeah.
the text or?
Yeah, you push it through on their app and instead of give them notification that lo and behold, they have unusual water activity taking place.
Andre, do you want to talk about that real quick about all those reports and
Yeah.
maybe there's with that even Danielle and her team would have here.
Yeah, I think I've got a section for that, so.
Okay.
So also with this system, as I mentioned in Brooklyn Mission, they're installing this valve. This is the remote shut-off valve. It connects to any meter. Remember I said that Aclara is an open system? So with an open system, they can connect this valve to any meter regardless of manufacturer. And so with it, you can talk to this valve and you can have it do a shut-off and say, instead of driving that distance to go out and shut them off, you can shut it off right here. Since you have access to the system, you can put it on a partial setting, you can close it, you can open it. There are some utilities that are not allowed, or not permitted to shut somebody's water off. But I can set you a partial, and that can make your life a little miserable for a while. Until you come and pay that bill. So that's the benefit of this remote shut off. Again, it saves you. Now, I'm presenting the remote shut off as if it's like a negative, in other words, somebody didn't pay their water bill and they need to have a valve instead of having to pay a deposit. But these days, it's actually turning into a positive. We're getting customers that are coming in and asking for this valve because of the fact they are traveling. And they want someone to monitor their property while they're away. And then in the event or in the likely event something's happening, they want the ability for you to shut their water off. And I thought, wow, that's unique. And of course, it never fails. When somebody comes in, a situation occurs where, you know what, I see their point. Next thing you know, we just remember we did a disconnect, we did a shut off on a person's property. Happened to drive by a couple of days later and I said, how on earth is he water in his yard? I said, did we shut his water off? Well, it seems that this individual has a lot of great plumbing skills. The neighbor, he decided to connect into and tap their line right over to the home. With the AMI system, you detect, whoa, why is that home all of a sudden using a lot of water when they're not home? And so there you go. So again, another benefit of a remote shut-off valve. And as I mentioned, this is you can add this at any time. The choice is yours.
That doesn't come right with part of the Aclara then.
It's part of Aclara, but it doesn't come with a standard system. It's an accessory.
It's an accessory.
It's an accessory.
The remote shut off
Is an accessory.
an accessory.
Yes, yes. This is the meter transmitting unit. This is the device that's going to connect to the water meter. And from it, we will mount it. We can mount it in the basement up against the outside wall, or if you prefer, we can put it on the outside of the home. The choice is yours, but it will read the water meters each and every day, every single hour. It also holds 96 days of hourly reads. So in the event, say a data collector was to go offline, and as we're going up there taking care of it, once we put that data collector back online, this will backfill all the meter reads. So 96 days of hourly reads are contained in this unit as well. It's also encrypted, also has the ability to, as I mentioned, talk to remote disconnect device. And again, it's also very compatible, as you can see, maybe you'll see at the very bottom, but it's compatible with over 20 manufacturers. And so it's compatible with every meter that I know of, here and abroad. So again, very, very powerful system. Yes.
What kind of power does that run off of?
It's a battery.
Battery?
Battery. Yeah, so the battery in there is good for 20 years. It's 10 full, 10 prorated. Under our program, we take responsibility for 15 years, as well as the meter and the data collectors, every part of the system, including the software upgrades. That's our responsibility. Just like your water tank, anything happens to that water tank, you don't see a bill from us. You don't typically get a call other than for us to go there, and we're taking care of it. It's our responsibility.
So you're saying it's good for 20, but your responsibility is for 15.
That is correct, because the warranty is actually only 10, and in the last 10, it's a prorate, it's a sliding scale, but we cover for a full 15. So And the reason we do it for 15 is because after 15 years, well, actually, AWWA said after 6 to 7 years, your water meters are running about 6 to 7%. Even though we're putting ultrasonic meters in here, battery NIT is 10 and 10, 10 full, 10 prorated. So we have to start thinking it's time to change out these meters, time to change out these meter transmitting units. So it's time. And so that's the reason. This is the data collector unit. It's either solar or AC powered. Here up in Michigan, you don't get a lot of sun, believe it or not. So we'll either put a double solar panel on it, or we'll tie electric or AC power to the unit. But this unit has both. It has a different number of backhauls, in other words, to send the information to the cloud. Most likely we'll use cellular here. And you can see that we only need to put the antenna at a 30-foot height. So we can use an electric pole, you know, street light, whatever it may be. Obviously, we use a water tower, but we only need 30-foot height for the antenna. That's important because if you're growing, if you want to expand, then you know you can expand this system very easily. With the data.
One antenna for the whole town?
I believe it's 3.
3? Okay.
And that's for duplication,
Right.
Jerry. So if one goes down, you're still
Still
pulling,
got the other.
right?
Which led me perfectly into my propagation study. So here's you. I cannot read that from here, but I believe it is 3 data collectors, but it's showing how it's going to look here in the village and coverage that it's going to have. But you can see how we're going to cover the village with the data collectors, and you can see that the level of redundancy that we have. You can see up there in the upper right, full redundancy, double redundancy, triple redundancy. And again, that's in the event the data collector comes offline, you're still going to get all your reads, and it gives us time to get the other data collector back up. And for the seeing impaired like me, that's a bigger, it's a bigger. Okay. This is the software. Clara One, this is the world of operations, customer service. Those of you who will enjoy the system, you can see the locator pins. The color represents the situation that's going on. It also represents the location of your water meters. And you can see that all the events that occur with each one of the meters, it bubbles up and tells you that whether you've got unusual water activity, negative consumption. Yes, you do get negative consumption. Somebody may take your water meter and turn it around backwards. It goes negative. So we'll be able to pick up on that as well. Yes, yeah, they do it all the time. In fact, when they do it enough, we hire them because they do great quality work. So hey, you got to find people somewhere. So, yeah, so it's a very, very powerful system, and all that information bubbles up to you. Then, of course, you can group. So where we are in our utility, we group meters, we group residential, we group commercial, we group vacant properties, the elderly population. We can group meters, and what we do is, say, for example, you've got a series of vacant properties. You know individuals have decided on 7. So you group all those meters together. And what you do is you set an alarm on those meters. So if there's any usage of water from those vacant properties, it bubbles up to you and says, hey, you got usage of vacant property. Well, how's that possible? Somebody better have moved in, or someone is taking water they're not supposed to. And so you're able to identify that. I also use the system for fire protection. So when you have fire protection, sometimes you do not, when you have a dedicated fire service line, most times you'll use a detector check with a tattletale meter. So what we do is I group all the detector checks with their tattletale meters. I put an MTU on each one of those tattletale meters, and I group them. If I see any usage from a tattletale meter, somebody's house better be on fire, right? Or the detector check, right? Otherwise, they're taking water they're not supposed to. I can also use it as a check for my backflow, because I'm supposed to send a report in every year to show that the backflow has been tested, no negative use. Well, if my report shows that, you know what, there's been no negative use of that detector check, guess what? That serves as my check. So again, a lot of powerful information that I'm able to use here with a player. And I've mentioned customer service will have this window, and so they'll be able to see the events, and they'll be able to, in fact, act on it accordingly, be very proactive. We also, from our Visio Center, is monitoring the system every day And we're going to send you a report every single day of all the unusual activity that we see. So if you miss it, we're gonna see it as well, and we will let you, we'll let you know.
Where is your center again?
It's in Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia. From there, we monitor all the systems across the country. And if you like, another future session, we can actually do a demo of the Declare one. I mean, actually use one of the customers here. And so you can actually see exactly what it looks like in their world of AMI. So under our program, we're going to take responsibility. We take responsibility through the financial solution, through the deployment, through taking care of it after it's deployed. Again, as I mentioned, it is our responsibility. And as I mentioned, we take care of it for 15 years. That's what makes us different than any other company. Because again, too many companies come in, they provide you solutions all day long. But once you have a problem, you know, can't find them, but provide you more product. That's not what we need. We need someone to go out there and take care of the problems that are in the field. And we have the ability to do that. So we did a project overview. I'm not going to go through this initiative, but you're going to get a copy of this presentation. But this is just to show you the individuals that have roles and responsibilities when you roll out a project like this. This is to show you the timeline for the village. Well, I would anticipate 9 to 12 months. The biggest time factor is obviously making appointments, you know, to get access to the property to make the change. So we'll set up a call center and we will arrange that. We will do it. We do usually 6 points of contact. We'll try to call them during the day, then we'll send them a postcard, then we'll try to call them in the evening, and then another postcard. And usually when we get to about number 4, we're going to get in contact with you and say, look, we're having a little trouble here. We'll ask for some assistance from the village, and then hopefully we'll coordinate our efforts, and we'll use the last 2 points of contact, which is which will be on a weekend, and follow up with another postcard. But usually through those 6 points of contact and your partnership, we're able to get all these water meters changed in. So with the project overview, this is the scope of work. So again, all the things that we're going to be taking care of, all the things that we're going to be doing for the village. So it's all listed here. We also did a cost justification for you as well to show you what the impact is, the financial benefit, because again, no longer having to go out and do rereads, move in, move out, and then the potential revenue that could be realized from a change of the meters, because of course that revenue is going to not only impact the water side, but also the sewer side as well. So you're going to get that financial benefit as well. So we plotted that out for you as well. And this is all based on the information that you provided. But you can certainly see from your non-revenue water that certainly it is time to change out those water meters. And with the change out of water meters, that certainly is going to help justify the change out to an AMI system, because again, these are your cash registers, and this is one of the few projects that you'll ever engage in as a village where it actually pays for itself, because you're actually changing out the very cash register that generates revenue. So for those of you that are techie, also put these slides in for you. So you want to see how we're going to integrate with your billing system. So in customer service, we're going to automate your billing. So from your meter reads, it's now going to be automated. So you're going to do a request file for that information. We're going to send you all the billing reads in a packet. You're never going to do the interface to your billing. That's our responsibility. And then you will just send that information through that interface to your billing, and it will automatically populate. From there, you bill as normal. But it's all going to be automated, and that responsibility of the interface is ours. And of course, and if we do the customer portal, that's also our responsibility to interface with your billing provider. And with the customer portal, what the customer sees is also what you'll see in customer service. So you'll see the exact same information. So when the customer is talking about what they see, you'll be seeing the same thing. And we will design the customer portal however you wish. So again, whatever information you want the customer to have access to, we will work with you on setting it up that way as well. So really in conclusion, as Daryl mentioned earlier, we certainly want to say thank you. Why us? Why you've been working with us for so many years? Well, it's because of the value that we bring. We are a very unique company. We're a licensed contractor, we're a licensed engineering firm, we have consultants. We take 100% risk and responsibility for everything that we do. That's what makes us different. Because again, too many times, even on me, on the utility operations, I have a lot of manufacturers that come in and try to sell me stuff every single day. The only problem is when I ask them for help because of issues in the field for products that I bought, I can't find them. I have to use my own resources, which I already had assigned to do something else. With under our responsibility, it's under our care, it's our responsibility to take care of it. Just like your water tank that we've been taking care of for so many years. We're also certified to deliver asset maintenance programs. We're probably the only company that I'm aware of that can do this. Our NISO 9001, you hear about it for meters, but you never hear about it for providing a service. And our certification allows us to provide that service, which makes us unique what we do. I mentioned the contracting, licensing for the engineering, and also safety. We also have one of the best safety records as well, which goes without saying, we're climbing water tanks. So certainly you have to be safe. And if you're going to do a project of this scope, you want to make sure that there is a great safety record behind it as well. Someone mentioned the Visio Center in Atlanta. Well, where we take care of all the meters, all the systems across the country. We're able to take a look at what's going on. Anything that's going on unusual, we will send you notification of that as well. We will be providing all the training for you as well. It's your system, so we're going to train you. But again, it's a partnership, so we'll continue to train you because we know people come and go.
Can you back up that Visio Center real quick? One of the cool things about the Visio Center is it is monitoring your system. So we were talking about battery life earlier. So Andre's team's able to look at that data collector, the 3 of those out there, right? He's able to look at the performance of those data collectors out there, able to see the transmitters, the battery lives of those things. So again, from a proactive standpoint of it, Andre's team has the ability to get to that data collector first before it actually has that failure, replacing batteries, replacing the data collector, any of those components out there, his team's monitoring as well from the data center. So that's always been a neat thing everybody loves as well, that piece of it.
So certainly some of the benefits, and of course, any type of storms or anything like that, of course, just no different than with your water tower. I mean, we'll let you know prior, we're ready, we're prepared. And again, we're going to go out and we're going to take care of any situation that may occur. And so different tools that we use, again, to monitor the health of the system, to see the dashboard when it comes to, how's your system performing, for work orders, and for sending you those daily notifications of what is happening with your system. We also do meter site surveys. So in your case, all your water meters are inside, but we are going to do a survey of all your larger meters. Because again, we'll be able to get access to this. Any larger meters that you have, we'll do a survey, but you can see a dashboard that we have here, and you can see how we're tracking each individual, and you'll have a window into it to see how we're doing with the survey and all the information we're collecting. This might be a great opportunity. We noticed with many utilities, especially with the lead and copper rule, you may want us to identify any sources, while we're doing a changeover of the meter, or maybe a cross connection. Again, whatever it may be, this is a great time to do it, because again, we're going to be with each and every meter that you have. And for references, we have a number of customers that, again, we take care of their assets every single day here in the state. And again, it is our responsibility. So again, just highlighting there. And of course, with the AMI system with Grayling and Brooklyn and some of the others, again, they're also enjoying the benefits of. So really, at the end of the day, our promise to you is to take care of your system. Our promise to you is to deliver the best in-class system. We're going to take 100% risk and responsibility for your system. So again, anything happens, it's our responsibility, no different than your water towers today. We're going to take care of all the software upgrades, all the training, that's us. So you're never going to have to worry about, what's going to cost me to get the latest software, or what if LTE goes to 6G? That's our responsibility. Any technology, that is our responsibility under asset management program. Because really, at the end of the day, we want to provide you with a solution that's going to make you proud. That's our goal. So as I like to say, when we provide a solution, we don't move out, we move in. So with that, thank you. Any questions?
total cost of this is proposed?
There you go.
I didn't see it on there.
Yeah, you didn't see that. So we we provide some budgetary figures. I think it's about 1.3 million, if I remember correctly, is the budgetary figure. And that's budgetary because again, we're going to lock down your scope of work, exactly what you want. You mentioned the remote shut offs, if you wanted to have that, and the customer portal, things of that nature. So once we lock all that down, we can finalize it.
How do you go about, Andre? I wouldn't think that we would do the whole village at one time. I would think that we would do it section by section. I'm only asking that because if we have this 15 meter, I don't know if you, I know it's not a large village, but we take it chunk by chunk by chunk and do it over a period of 3 years, something of that nature, so that we don't have everything coming due all at once. I don't know. What do you do there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we do is we have the ability to finance solutions to spread costs, just like we do with your tank. We spread the cost of your tank over many, many years. And so that each and every year we're doing certain services with your tank. But the way you cover that, or the way that you're paying for it as the villages, we spread those costs over time. So we do the same thing with your AMI system. We're going to take those costs over and spread it. We also have the ability to delay the payment, like 12, 18, sometimes even 2 years, delay it. So what that allows you to do is change out all the infrastructure, because we want to change it all at once. The reason is because we want to get that revenue base up. We want to try to get it up right here.
Yeah, but when it all takes a crack in 15 years, it's all going to take a crack at the same time.
Well, we're going to be here.
Well, wait, please take this book, not the wrong way.
Sure.
We've heard that before. Okay,
Well,
with some other
Sure.
businesses that say they're gonna be there and they're gonna represent us and they're gonna be there in the long haul.
If I remember correctly, we've been taking care of your tank for 20 years. I think.
Was one of the other questions. I think you're.
Yeah, it's at least 20 years.
I think they're actually over 20 years slightly.
Yeah.
Brent and I were looking
Yeah,
at that.
yeah.
This one was some-
So we're going to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been taking care of you for 20 years, and I don't think we've come up in council, right? So I think we've been doing a good job. So I think we've been doing a good job. So yeah, and again, that's again our name of our company is Utility Services Group. First word is utility. Our first and foremost priority is utility. Second word is service. That's what we do. We provide services. And again, as Daryl mentioned, there's a number of services we provide. And our promise to you is to take care of it over its entire.
You've seen that the majority of your towns, cities go ahead and all do it at once versus chunk by chunk by chunk.
That is correct. That's correct. To get the revenue, especially with your meters, because they are your cash registers. And what's happening is it's the law of diminishing returns. Because if I replace this, these meters are still dropping off. So all the work that I've done here is being offset because these meters continue to drop off in accuracy.
Daniel, I have a question.
Yes.
How do we currently bill the customers? The process, I know it starts with reading the meters, but from that point, how does that work currently? And I guess to get a little bit of a feel of how long, this will lead to a question for him. How long does it take us to process that to get the bill sent out?
It is a lengthy process, and we provided all of this to them, and that's how they were able to provide kind of return on investment or annual savings. So right now, the process, we have these little 5x7 green books that DPW comes and picks them up. We have 15 of them. They go out and they walk around and they handwrite all the reads in the books, and each book there's a page for each address or each meter. So they handwrite all of that. Takes them usually all of their guys about 3 days, depending on other things too, but about 3 days. They bring those books into the office where we all, and Brandon's the lead on this, but if he needs help, we do. But Brandon will manually enter. He'll go through every page and manually enter it into the SNA, which then will populate the reports after we enter every single page of every book. It does when we're entering those reads. So let's say I enter your read for your house at that time, it'll tell me if it's a high read, but I've already got the read for the month. So the most I can do at that time is make a note of it and then send DPW back out there to make sure that they wrote the read down correctly, and transpose the number. And they go back out, reread and bring it back where it's either correct, and then at that point, again, they've used it or not. But after Brandon enters all of the reads, which takes usually a day, if we have a lot going on again, somebody will sometimes help him with those. And then it takes about another day to do all of the like printing of the bills and populating, and that's after a day of DPW doing any rereads and follow up, or if there's a meter that didn't have a read because it was broken, they get that repaired. And then that does not include any shut off, like if somebody leaves and we go read, that doesn't count any new move-ins, move-outs, anything like that.
So between DPW and the office staff, we've got
It's a week.
wrapped up into water bills every month. So
Yes.
So you have at least, you have 2 or 3 days of DPW guys, that's that's probably at least 20 hours a piece, potentially.
Yeah, and that's all of our guys. When we read meters typically, it's usually at least 5, if not all 6 of them. Brent will sometimes be a floater, but even gets out there and reads. We had 1 month, Lisa and I went out there and helped them read because we just had a lot going on and they were behind and we had to get them done. And I will tell you, it was a unique experience. I had to climb through rose bushes. It was interesting. I did the trailer park, well, Lisa and I did, each took half of it, and I definitely have a understanding and some empathy for DPW guys and some places they have to read.
Okay, which leads me to a question for you. My boss thinks that because everything's computerized in the CAD world, that it's just a couple button clicks. What's the time frame? Because the system is computerized and you're automatically getting those reads. How much of a process is it to convert all that information that comes in to a monthly bill?
Okay.
And she's kind of described it with our end.
Sure. So there was a slide where I showed you the tie into billing. So what's going to happen is all those books are going to be now in the system. So I'll be tied into the Aclara AMI system. So what's going to happen is, when ready, she's going to send basically an email and to Aclara. It's going to say it's time for billing. And in about 2 minutes, they're going to take all the information, all the reads, and send it back to her in a file. That file, we've already created the interface from that file to billing. So she's basically going to take that file and drop it in, and it will populate bill. So that would take 10 minutes tops.
And then the time we have into printing the bills out.
Yeah, which would be, the printing part would stay the same, but yeah, I mean, we're looking at a week to literally an hour and a half.
Have you ever calculated that into dollars?
Well, no, I have not. I could do that. I would totally geek out on that, but I think that's kind of what they did with that annual cost, is try to equate that to what we would save there. And that doesn't even factor in. So you guys right now are talking about just the billing that we do every month. But let's think about, I mean, in a week, we get a non-billing week, minimum, I'm gonna say, and this is very, very minimal, 20 phone calls regarding water bill questions. And again, that's probably on the low side. And each one of those phone calls either requires us pulling up their account and looking into it and having one monthly read with very limited information to go off of. Sometimes having to send DPW out there to reread meters, to test the meters, and then still only having one data point to look at, whatever, or maybe 2 with the reread, but still having very limited information, and then following up with that person that takes, again, varying timeframes, but it's not just a simple 1-2 minute solution typically, to now being able to see like a full history. Or ideally, we're going to each morning come in and Brandon can pull up that AMI system And he'll look at it and it'll tell him right there, high reads for 5 addresses, and we can reach out to those people and say, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but in the last hour, you used 1,000 gallons and you normally only use 1,500 in an entire month, something's going on. So that benefit will be huge too. So we're still spending the time to call somebody, but we're gonna have a lot better response because we can tell them much sooner than at the end of the month saying, okay, I'm really sorry, you must have had a leak, I have no idea why. And I still am not gonna know when I initially call them, but we can at least get out there and get the water shut off. Or if we can't get a hold of them, or we know that they're gone, go turn their water off and then find out what is the issue and what's going on. Which saves them a bunch of money and having to, again, come ask for fee waivers or get it shut off, and then we're not wasting water that's not being used either, because it's still treated water, and then nobody, like, it went wherever or flooded somebody's house.
What is the average age of our meters currently? Did you have it?
25
I thought it was about 25, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, 25 years, a long time. If I may add, one of the, I don't think Daryl mentioned it, but I'm actually from the state of Alabama. But even though I'm from the state of Alabama, I should not sound like someone from Alabama. I hope not. So if you were expecting me through my presentation, use words such as all y'all, yeah, Simpson, you are going to be very disappointed. In fact, I grew up in a place called Canada. I grew up in Sarnia, not too far from here. If you're familiar with Port Huron, St. Clair, the Blue Water Bridge, for the side, that's where I grew up. And growing up in Canada, I may say the odd 8 here or there, but we have something that you enjoy in the winter of the year called snow. And if you've ever read meters in the snow, like I once did at the front of Pearson Airport, there's actually a water meter up there on the tarmac. Going out to read that water meter when you've got a plane taxiing in front of you is quite an experience. But one of the things, obviously, with snow is safety. And one of the concerns we've always had is safety of our people. And when we're out there in snow, icy conditions, things of that nature, that's also one of the other considerations why we moved to AMI. If you would like, there's a customer we just recently changed to AMI in Prince George County of Virginia. You can actually Google it, Prince George County, Virginia water meter reader. That individual was 2 weeks shy of retirement, and he was reading water meters, and they read water meters manually. He sits on the bed of a truck, and he slowly but surely goes to the next house. He jumps off the bed, off the tailgate, reads the meter, and gets back on. Well, between one of the homes, he came off that truck, he struck his head and passed away, 2 weeks shy of retirement. That day, Prince George County said nobody is going out to read meters anymore. They are now AMI. The next system over is Manassas Park. They had a situation where somebody was reading water meters and were just about to get out of the truck. A vehicle came around the bend, and I guess they texting wherever it may be, and they slammed into that truck and just crushed the door. If he had opened that door, stepped out, that would have been it. And Manassas Park said, no more, nobody reading water meters, they are AMI today. So again, just another benefit that comes along with that is the safety of our people. And that's also important. So.
Andre, can you elaborate a little more about this 1.3 million and as we talk about it as council and things, let's just pretend we have our discussion right. Yeah, let's roll with this. I mean, what are you talking time frame wise and the time you're saying for payment and things of that?
So from a time, we believe about 9 to 12 months to get the entire project done. From a financing situation, we have the ability of coming to spread internally, spread costs like we do with your tank. We also have financing partners as well that we work with that also can spread costs.
Okay, can you elaborate that?
With what financing partners?
All of that, what you just said, except the 9 to 12 months, I understand.
9 to 12 months, and then we have the ability to spread costs over time.
What does that?
So it means like typically, internally, we typically do 5 years, 7 years. With our financing partners, we have the ability to spread it up to 15 years. And we also have the ability to delay the payment.
What does that mean?
Delay means you're not going to make a payment, maybe with our financing partners, let me say there may be an interest payment. But there's no payment whatsoever of principal for 12, 18, even possibly 24 months. The reason we designed it that way is to give us the ability to change out your meters, get that revenue up. Get that revenue up. And that, of course, in turn will allow you to make your payment on your system. The other option, and again, it may not work well for the village, but it works for us because we're a regulated utility. As a regulated utility, we are responsible to recover all of our costs in our base fees. So if you know, your fees are structured two ways. You have a base fee and you have a rate. The base fee for utilities was designed to reflect all of our capital costs. So all the capital costs that we incur that we project in a given year, we are to reflect that back in our base fee. So if I'm going to buy new trucks, I'm going to buy tractors, trailers, whatever it may be, personnel, you keep it here, and that's, sorry, not personnel, but any CapEx would be in your base fee. And then your rate is your OpEx, your operational cost, right there. And so, so if we were doing an AMI system as a contingency, we put in a technology fee, for example, into our fee. So we'll increase our base fee to reflect the cost of that AMI system, or we'll just actually increase our base on the water and the sewer side to reflect that cost. So that's a contingency we put in there, but we do that over 15 years. So even if we didn't get the revenue we're expecting, we have it covered. So that's, and I think I did do the calculation for the village as well. So to show you what it would look like, and I think it was something like $3 increase, I think, on your water and your sewer, if I remember correctly. But again, just another way of cutting the cost of it.
And then every community that you have worked with has obviously seen that increase in their monies coming in, and you have references
Yes.
for us to contact.
Sure.
You mentioned that within Michigan.
Yes.
There's some utilities actually, their main goal was not actually to recover revenue. It was actually more of a customer service, all those other intangibles we talked about.
Good point.
That was their main goal to begin with. It was not really a revenue recovery. It was a customer service piece. It was something else that goes with that, just so you know.
Yeah, each utility has, I think in the case of Brooklyn, their meters were in end of life, but at the same time, they wanted to be an advanced, you know, they really wanted to be advanced in their system. So they in fact have probably one of the most advanced AMI systems in the country for what they've done with their system. We have, you know, Mansfield, Ohio has over 20,000 meters. They did it because their meters ran out of end of life. Their reading technology, the batteries were starting to fail, and their non-revenue water was getting out of control. And so we changed out all 20,000 of their meters. They're in basements. You have Finley, Ohio. We changed. We're working with them. They had an AMI system, but it went dark. Well, remember back in the day in 2020, if you had a flip phone, it operated in 2G and 3G. All the backhauls they had was on 2G, 3G. And they decided, well, you know what, we'll live with 2G, 3G. Well, T-Mobile had different plans. They decided to say one day, no more 3G. And so their system went completely dark. So they had to estimate 20,000 meter reads. And so now we're working with them. They got an AMI system, and now we're deploying AMI.
You're saying the tech part.
That's right.
You will always be addressed.
That's right.
And to that point, on the systems we did have in place that would have been on a 3G, Andre's team went out ahead of time and started switching all those over to 4G to 5G. And I think you mentioned earlier, if it goes from LTE to 6G7, whatever the next G is, right? That's all part of that 15-year plan, is to swap those data collectors out as necessary.
Yeah. Like, for example, all the data collectors, regardless of the manufacturer, they have a battery in the data collectors. They're typically good for 5 years. It's our responsibility to go out and change those batteries every 5 years. And again, we monitor the health of that battery, so if it's premature, we're going to go out and take care of it. It's our responsibility.
What is your annual contract for that maintenance? What are we talking cost wise for you to maintain the system for us?
So to the cost line, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think it was 30 to 40,000 a year, I think, if I remember correctly. But, and I, again, in your presentation, I will populate that, so you have it. But that fee, by the way, is misleading in the sense that that fee is made up of a number of things. Us taking care of the system is very small. What that actually refers to is more than 50% of that cost is putting your information in the cloud. More than 50% of the cost is just putting your information in the cloud. Because now, remember, I get hourly reads from every single one of your meters. I have to store that somewhere. And I have to store the entire history of all those meter reads. So putting your information in the cloud is the vast majority of the cost. Then your data collectors, they call in cellular, so that backhaul, all the costs associated with that are in there as well. Monitoring, all those additional fees, VCU maintenance, that's also built in there. And then, of course, us taking care of the system. So again, it's all, we do it all together, so there are no surprises. It's just the one fee.
And with your 1.3, that did not include the shut off?
No, did not include a shut. Yeah, the reason is the shut off are not cheap. You know, they're basically the cost of a meter is the shut off. And so that's why we did not include it. But, you know, again, as I like to do with each one of our customers, I would certainly get you 10 of them if you wish, but you can have some fun with them. They're certainly something nice to try out and see what you think, especially in some of the far reaches of the village, the way you always keep traveling out to each and every time. You can put this remote shut off in place and
Would we not need those?
So I would not recommend that we put
Really?
automatic shutoffs on every property in Blissfield. Well, I think that would be awesome. I don't think financially it makes sense. I would recommend, however, that we do shutoffs at properties like rentals that we have a lot of where the tenants change frequently. I also think that would be a really good conversation to have with Mr. Rupp at the trailer park. You guys recently approved to pay him for shutoffs. He could have those installed at his park. And again, with the click of a button, we turn them off and we're not paying for him to go out or his employees to go do that. So that would be another good location. Again, I'm not saying nowhere. I do think there are huge benefits to having them, but I just don't see it in every property. You know, or maybe those people that do travel or go to Arizona or wherever for winter, we could do something there. But I wouldn't even, I don't see the need there as much as the renters or the frequent flyers, maybe.
Yeah, and certainly the cost for a shut off is significant because one person's dedicated, have to go all the way out there, you know, do the shut off, return, and then of course, when they pay their bill, gotta go back out there again, open up the valve. And so certainly, you know, Darryl was mentioning to me, certainly making one trip has probably paid for the valve. But I certainly recommend though, if you do decide to put valves in place and you actuate valves, please do not give up the charge. Continue to charge for your shutoffs. Even though you automate it, that's your benefit, but you still continue to charge for those services. Okay. That's why they give me that title, Director of Revenue Management and Metering Insurance. You can see what my role is, maximize the revenue of the utility.
And we do have other utilities that are doing exactly as Andre said. They are, you don't have to do all that on the front end as well. But to Andre's point, there will be some people that will go out and charge X amount of dollars to shut it off, charge, turn back on. And they're basically charging the amount of what that valve would be. So then they're coming back to us and buying more of those along the way. And then installing them later at the same time. So there's using that revenue to do that. And Andre's point is continue to.
And I think you're like you're suggesting, Danielle, the select, being selected with placed initially.
While we're talking price, what are we talking for the meter? And what is the price for a valve, shut off valve? Per unit?
I could give you a full breakdown. But again, I'm just guessing, but I'll give you what I'll do. When I'll give you the 1.3, and I'll give you the breakdown. So you'll have it.
Because we need to keep in mind the 1.3 is those, I call them fixed space, that's not what they're called.
Yeah,
What do you call them?
data
The
collectors.
towers, the data collectors. as well as all of the meters.
Yeah.
And then that would be the new programming, and then they would help us. They would go in and install all the meters, so that would not be our DPW. And then they would help us make sure that we had all the programming in place so that it would match up with BSNA. That
The
we
data
currently
collected
use
is a
for-
free thing.
Correct, yes.
So a lot of the cost is really water meter install. Again, setting up a call center, working with you and the residents, setting up appointments, changing out these meters. If we have to do cross connection, I think we have it set up in the program for cross connection. So to do the cross connection survey also at the same time. And because it is becoming a requirement here in the state to do the cross connection survey. So I think we have that in yours as well.
So we have, and I guess I just want to, our meters, our average age is 25 years. The average life of a meter is 20 years. So we've exceeded that. So regardless, whatever we do, we have to do something because our meters are just going to continue to need to be replaced and not work. So we ultimately have an option. We continue as we are and we replace the meters and we continue manually reading. The whole reason that staff reached out to them and wanted to have this conversation, I shouldn't say the whole reason, but 95% of it was that customer service part. As everybody in the community knows, we have high fees and it's an issue, it's a concern, we understand that. But if we are able to, I'm not saying we can adjust or change those high fees, but if we can be more proactive, at least we're trying to help the customer and we're not just saying, this is the high fee, you're stuck with it, sorry, out of luck. This, the option to be able to have those reads come in regularly is, the benefit is huge. I mean, I know there's, and you guys know, we recently reported where we were doing a read and some of those meters came in high and the BPW was able to contact those residents faster, which is not typically the case. And those residents were so thankful. I think a couple of them even sent a letter or email just thanking BPW because that saved them a couple $100 or more potentially because they didn't go that whole month. But that isn't happening most of the time because we're going so far between reads. But if you break it down too, so 1.3 million is the cost for us. And let's say, and this is hypothetical, let's say that we work with USG to finance that out for 5 years. That's $260,000 a year. And I think in your sheet, our savings annually was $262,000 a year. So we're, again, and this is how we do make our money. So in order to keep, like we have meters that are inaccurately reading, that ultimately just makes our fees go higher because we're having to compensate for this water that we're producing that's unaccounted for and it's non-revenue water. And we are seeing a increase in that. And I think a large portion of it is because of our older meters. We've been working really hard to make sure all of our bills are entered and even water, you know, that like the school gets some water with the tennis courts and that whole agreement. We make sure that those reads are still entered, so we're at least seeing the water, and we compare that every month to the water that's actually produced and sent out by NORA. And it does fluctuate, and of course, we're higher on the months that we flush hydrants, but we're looking at about a 30% loss right now, which is, we want to be under 10%.
Does this include Rigaden as well?
So it includes them in the aspect of the main meter. We don't, what from their main meter and their residential meters, if there's loss, that would be with them. So this program, we did include in our total meters, like they're the main one, but not their individual residential meters.
Okay.
So Danielle, you mentioned you feel that there's close to a 30% loss. Is there, I'm kind of a number kind of person just for whatever reason. Is there a number that I'm not going to hold you to anything, but is there a number that you can correlate to the age of the meter becoming less efficient or less accurate? Is there anything that?
Yeah, AWWA, American Water Works Association, did a study. I could send you a copy of the study, but they said that when the meter reaches about 10 years of age, it's losing about 6 to 7%.
It's reading inaccurately 6 or 7. Is that it's not recording the amount of water?
That's
or-
right.
So you're losing water.
And yeah, so right now you're subsidizing a lot of water.
So how much does that rate increase over the next 10 or 15 years?
Right, again, they said 6 to 7% at 10, so again, I mean, you can project that out if you wish. You know, so if you're obviously going to 20, and if that 6 to 7 holds true, then you're up, 13, 12 to 14%. 20
I
years.
think that'd be an exponential increase. But
I hope not.
Yeah.
I really hope not.
Is there another number that comes into play? You mentioned of, somebody with some creative plumbing skills being able to bypass things or being able to steal water from their neighbor. Is there a number out there that is related to that as well?
Theft in their utility operations, we relate about 3%. Theft. And there is a correlation, just so that you know, there is a strong correlation between the price of water and the amount of theft. The higher you're billing for, the greater chance you have of theft. And that is factual.
Well, the water meter that's in my house has been there ever since I was born, that I know of. The only thing it's had in the past 20 years is a remote reader that reads outside.
It's 30 years old.
I do check those two to see if they correlate. They do correlate every month, but that, I guess that's a concern.
I just said that the date stamp on my water meter is in Roman numerals.
We also discussed, Danielle, get some sandcast lines. Lines, right, and that's one of the reasons Andre picked that meter that he did, was because if there was any kind of mechanical meter with those sandcast lines, you go and dive into that a little bit, Andre, as well.
Yeah, so with the mechanical meters that you have, using either an oscillating piston or a rotating disc, those meters are designed to clean water. So if you have any sand or sediment, manganese or iron going through those meters, you're going to scratch the surface. In case of an oscillating piston, you'll lock it. So you'll get 0. But for a rotating disc, you'll scratch the surface of that disc, and once you start scratching the ball and disc, and then you start losing accuracy for those meters. And if you pulled any of the meters and you've taken them apart, you'll see all the scratching to the surface, and once you see that, you know that you lost accuracy.
The one that Andre's proposing, or we're proposing here, is actually an ultrasonic that has no moving parts. If you heard that from him at the beginning, then that was one of the reasons why he selected that meter, was for that reason.
It's the same meter that Brooklyn is installing as well.
What kind of time frame would it take to do that or to implement the whole thing in this building?
About 9 to 12 months.
Okay, you did mention that earlier, my bad.
And part of that on the front end of that is not a whole lot going on, is a fair way of saying it. There's an FCC piece that has to happen because that line, that is yours, right? So there's that piece has to happen, right? And then the other part of it is if you think that the whole system has to be installed, what I always call backwards. People think you're coming out day one with a meter, you're not. His team is actually building this thing backwards, getting everything from the cloud set up. All the data collectors are going up, all of that infrastructure goes up first, so it appears like not much is going on. But the whole purpose of all that would be, and to get the whole integration into billing going on, all that IT work is going to first, so when that first meter goes in, they can actually test to make sure that meter is being read back here. So the whole infrastructure has to be set up before that first meter goes in, to make sure you can read that meter.
I think the meter would be going obviously first.
Well, yeah.
Logical thinking, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But doing the interface to the building, setting up the
Yeah,
network
makes total sense.
means that the second I install that meter, you can bill.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're not the first ones to be doing this, which is great. So we're not reinventing the wheel. What's, I guess, how do we sell to the public, to the customer? What's our ROI on this? And something like this, obviously, it's big bucks in sending out DPW. We have an extremely obsolete recording system, and we have to have staff enter the data. We have to print them. We have to mail them. I mean, technologically, we could start emailing people and save on mailings. So how do we say, okay, I've researched Ann Arbor did, Celine's recently done a Brooklyn that, like you said, how do we say, okay, this is our return on investment, we'll pay for this,
Mhm.
for everything that we do now, based on this many years, we charge this much. Again, we do have high water rates, how do we, deal with that on top of all the other infrastructure investments that we have to do down the line? So I guess I'm just looking for an ROI
Yeah,
to tell the public.
Yeah, and again, in one of those PowerPoint slides, I actually did do the ROI for you. So when I send you your deck, you'll see you'll see the graphs and everything like that with the ROI. But as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the only projects you will ever do in the village where there's actually a return on investment. I can build a water treatment plant all day. I'm not getting a penny return on investment, right? Because even the money that, I need to get, I have to get it through rates. I have to get it through what that water meter is saying. How do I take care of the sewer side? I have to get it from the rates, but if those meters are not accurate, then, it's just a lose-lose. And so that's why this is kind of a unique project, because again, you are actually changing up the cash register. So that's where the return on investment is going to be.
Because this could potentially save us, I guess, in quite a different areas, not only, the reading and the billing, but we have the issue with the snowbirds and things like that, where we're pulling meters or we're charging people the shut offs and the turn ons. Or, if you're out of town for 6 months, we literally make them pull their meter so they're not getting the ready to serve fee. I mean, those are all issues that we've dealt with recently in the past, and that's something that we could revisit, regarding our ordinances and whatnot. Again, I want to make it fair. I don't want to charge a $90 shut off and turn on if it only costs us. You said don't. Generally, we charge what it costs us to send a truck out, to send a guy out to physically turn it off, turn it back on. I want to be fair across the board. I don't want to say, well, we're gonna be more efficient. We're gonna continue to charge people the same $90 for turn off and turn on when we can take something in the computer and do that. I guess that's some of my concerns. So again, we really want to detail it specific to our needs and our standards of what we want to accomplish.
I almost think that if I'm hearing you with your numbers correctly, that with that kind of a percentage, after 6 years, after 12 years, mine is 30 years old in my home, right? I would guess, honestly, that my water bill would probably increase because it would be more accurate. That's what the accuracy, my bill would get larger. However, maybe then we could revisit the whole structure of our water billing. We won't have to have that high price because we will have an accuracy and we'll actually know. So you can't make that promise, but ideally there could be a change that the water rates could go down. Would that be?
I would never make that promise, but I would agree with you. If we're producing 10 million gallons of water right now, and I'm just gonna use round numbers, a month, and we're only selling 6 million gallons, yes, that's potentially something that's going to impact your fee schedule. And again, I think that's the other thing that we won't ever really accurately be able to put that when we talk about return on investment is what we're saving the resident too. So, again, I have a leak now that goes for a month and my bill is $1,500 where I catch it, and now I just saved the resident potentially $1,400 or whatever that amount. Again, I'm using round numbers here, but it's hard for us to anticipate or know what that is because we don't
know.
Hopefully none of our residents have water leaks, but we know that's not
But
realistic.
it makes us more efficient because we know what it'll cost to produce, we know how much we need to produce.
Exactly.
So we know those numbers. We're not losing gallons or however many gallons just to whatever waste or leaks.
But it would definitely.
And it makes us more efficient in the billing and all that sort of stuff. So yes, you could potentially see a decrease in the operational costs, which hopefully would pass on. And we still say, well, we have to set this, percentage away for USDA. We have to set this away from future infrastructure. But yeah, it would make us more efficient. Hopefully that makes the overall ready to serve.
On the ROI,
Yeah.
Again, can't make that promise, but it certainly is. It's feasible. Yeah, that's a good word.
I guess one of the questions, the change outs that 1.3 includes not our DPW guys, but your guys going in and changing all those out. How does that work with the lead copper issues? If we get in there and we say, okay, we have a service, does it have to be changed at that time when a new meter goes in? Because then we're looking at potentially, what, didn't we say 500 services or something like that in the town? So, I mean, that
was roughly.
Yes, we have, this is a great option, but do we have to,
Do it that way.
is it gonna add more infrastructure improvements that we have to do at this time? So then we're gonna have to scavenge up more money to make that happen.
Yeah, and again, we'll work with you on that because again, as we're going through, we're gonna take a look at cross connection, we'll take a look at the material, things of that nature. But again, as I mentioned earlier, as a regulated utility, again, we use our rates. Everything is offset by our rates. And in this case, I wouldn't touch your rate. I would look at your base fee because it's a CapEx project. And that's the way that I would cover. If it, again, in our utility operations, that's the way we would handle it. Because again, it has to be done. It's something that has to be done. It's not something we just can skirt around it forever. But as Danielle mentioned, the benefits, are it's immense. It's priceless in the sense of, I remember traveling one time and you know what, we have deep freeze in the south, all the water lines were only like, what? Anything below the ground, top the water line. I mean, for my trouble, I got a $1,500 water bill. Of course, I was going down there and said, look, I'll put in the AMI system for you. Just let me buy the data collector so you can monitor my home. Because that $1,500 should, easily get me one, right? Because again, once you've got a bill like that and you're never going to get one like that again, it's priceless. The ability, if you decide to go with a portal and they can see their own information, they can see their own usage, that's priceless. Being able to save the resources from going out and having to take care of all the duties that are responsible for move in, move out, re-reads, shut-offs, and especially in the winter months, again, you can now train these individuals like we do. We now have them doing different operations within distribution because we wanted some of them to get their licenses to do other work at the treatment plant in distribution. And now we're able to do that. And of course, again, the benefits are.
And then I do want to let you guys know too, I recently sent you the fee analysis that I got from Michigan Rural Water. I went through and updated all of that this year. That does include the meter replacement at 1.5 million as a capital replacement. So those fees or those projected increases.
What was that again? Right.
So
This is which thing did you?
So remember we had Michigan Rural Water that did the fee analysis. They had actually provided their worksheets, their Excel worksheets with all their formulas to me so that in the future I could go in there and input the data.
Right.
So I did that and I emailed you guys the water and sewer fees. And this is actually on the agenda for the first meeting in July too, but I have water rates pulled up right now. So when I do this, the way that Michigan Rural Water set all of this up is you go in and you put in your revenues. And it does a history. So it actually pulls your lowest revenue year as well. It doesn't pull your highest. But you put your revenues and you put in all of your capital projects that you know about moving forward. You also put in all of your equipment and what those replacement costs are. And it'll calculate what your fees, and you put in any loans that you have, but it calculates what your fees should be to cover those expenses, to cover replacement of all of your assets, and to cover the cost for your capital improvements. So I did that this year, and this will be on the website as well. So any residents can pull this, or if anybody wants a copy, I can send it to them too. But including 1.5 million per meter replacement. And I think I did that because the budgetary costs, I went on the high end if you guys wanted to do more shutoffs. And that would do the base fee right now is $51.85, and that would require a 2.3% increase. I'm sorry, it's 50.66. It would go to 51.85.
50, say it again, 50.66.
50.66 in the current water base.
And then go to the 51.85.
And this is just water, yes, which is a 2.3% increase. The usage fee right now is $6.13 per 1,000 gallons. And it would require 4.8% increase, which is $6.43. And I had sent you guys a few examples of this as well, so it sounds like especially the 4.8, a lot of money, but that's your usage per thousand. So if you take somebody who uses, and I gave you, I think, an example of 2,000 gallons, 6,000 a month. The 6,000 gallon a month, it was about $8 and some change a month increase. The 2,000 gallons, it was like 3 something. And I can send you those numbers again. I'm going off memory on
And you
those.
said that's paying the 1.5 and one lump sum. You know.
Right, that I would
The 1.3.
propose that we try to split that out if they would work with us over a couple
So
of
we just did
years.
10 years.
I would propose that we do 5 years. But that included the 1.5 as a capital project.
Okay.
And again, I wanted you guys to, I know, again, the fee discussion is coming later, and I know that's not necessarily, you guys aren't part of that, or, you know, but I did want you guys to know it was factored in there, I guess, when you look at those fees to be able, because like I said earlier, if we decide not to go with USG and do this remote read, that's your prerogative, but we still have to replace meters. We're in a position where we don't really have an option. We can't continue to use 25-plus-year-old meters.
Do we know what the cost is to replace meters? Like
We can't even get meters right now. I mean, we blame them.
It's us.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
It's all that year long.
We ordered meters last October, and we are hopefully going to get maybe 10 of them in August.
What's the cost per unit on those? Do you know?
For just the meter, I don't want to tell you wrong. I can get that bill and share that. with you.
They're not cheap anymore.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think they probably are.
And I think you buy Neptune, if I'm not mistaken.
correct.
Yeah, and I live 20 minutes from the plant.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so you can guess who I used to work for 23 years. So
Well, those are the people you retired from.
that's
Ah.
correct. So, but yeah, and in fact, one of the benefits of the deal meter was the fact that you get it in a short period of time as well. Yeah, Neptune is far out. It's I think the last quote we got was like 40 weeks,
Yeah,
40
so-
to 48 weeks.
So they had initially said August, they're only gonna give us a couple of them, and then we don't have an estimated date for the remainder that we ordered last October.
And Danielle, those are mechanicals, right?
Yes,
So we're still back to that same possible issue of the same cast and everything else.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also important too, because again, as we talked about, you definitely, even when you change out your meters, you don't want to go back to mechanical. Because then we're back in, for 6 to 7 years, we're back in the same spot again.
Regarding the upgrades and whatnot, you said you're not doing like the Rolls Royce version here. If we bought a specific type of meter and we decided it pays for itself or whatever, we want to upgrade, are we buying a different meter down the line? Or what really did you quote us, I guess? I mean,
Well,
I don't want to upgrade and then have to pay again to.
No, the meter you can select whatever, again, we're not loyal to any particular brand of meter, so you can mix and match however you wish. We picked an ultrasonic, but if you wanted to, if you, for whatever reason, wanted to be a mechanical, the choice is yours. But we selected ultrasonic and magnetic because again, there was no moving parts. It wasn't going to affect the performance over time, so that way we can maximize your revenue over the life of the system.
Which was the benefit to replacing the whole system at once too, because then we don't have a couple different meters. DPW has one meter that they need to replace it, they know how that works, or because they go in and replace with whatever meter. That's the one we're gonna have sitting on the shelf in the event that it breaks down or freezes or whatever.
I guess I'm just wondering, like if we have the snowbirds or whatever, and we invented that. That ordinance to get us by for the time being, if they're willing to contribute or pay for part of that. We assess them some sort of, you can have the shut off being here, then they're not paying the ready to serve fee, or we're not pulling meters, we're not. Having a plumbing inspector go out and do all that stuff. We can potentially offset costs with them in the long run. same with like we talked about you know, the frequent flyers that get shut off for the rentals, that sort of thing. And then I guess my last question, you guys talked about combining with electric, gas and water. Obviously, that's a different utility that does it. Consumers just put in smart meters for their electric recently through town. Is there a way to work together, partnership with them to say, okay, maybe it's a benefit for them? I think they still have gas readers that have to come through the entire town, right, and read those. I don't think they have smart gas. Is there a way to work with them in partnership and say, maybe we can offset costs and do the two meters together?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, if again, with the infrastructure in place, you know, should gas decide, you know, the way I would approach it is, I would have my system in place. And then I would approach gas and say, by the way, when it's time for you to start changing these meters, because their gas meters may be getting up there in age, we have a system in place. You can use this network to read those gas meters. We give them a link to that. And they also will pay you whatever the cost may be that you want to charge them for using your network. The same them from having to build a network of their own. So you'll have that benefit as well. Yeah. The system is also can do electric. So if you wanted to expand, but I know electric and water typically don't play well together. So they typically like to do their own thing. But you have it there as a village, you have it there as a safety net. So if something was to happen, you do have it there, and that's also another benefit.
I mean, there's a lot of efficiencies, not only just in the need, you know, and our age and our current meters and what it costs us to do all the paperwork and the billing for it, but I guess, you know, talking about the efficiency of an actual system, you know, accurate reads and whatnot, how much water, you know, we would waste or how much it could produce. I guess it makes sense. I would like to sit down and maybe piecemeal different options, you know.
That's,
This is what we're trying to.
you've got it on our, in a one of our July, the first of July agenda. Is that what you're thinking now?
The fees are on so I'm doing the fees a little bit different this year.
That's right.
The fees are on the first meeting in July. It's July 10th, I believe 10th. But they will not be effective until October 1 with the new fiscal year. But I'm trying to give our residents and Riga as well some time to say, okay, these are the fees that will be implemented. Instead of what we've done in the past is we have the proposed fees, then we adopt them and then bam, they're implemented. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes this year with the fees. The meter project, I wanted them to come do this presentation because I didn't know how much you guys knew about the smart meters and what some of the ability is on the customer service side of things. Because during budget work sessions, when we talk about capital improvement plan projects and what you guys, and I plan on doing similar to last year and saying, okay, here's our capital projects. What are your priorities? I wanted you to have this information ahead of time. So that will be in August with our budget work sessions that we actually go through those things. And
You worried me there, but earlier you said something about, sorry, you know, but you said something about posting things beforehand. I don't want to see any numbers online until we pick a number. I don't want possible or potentials. I want to confuse people right now. That's not what you were saying.
no, I'm
Okay, I
sorry,
thought
I
you were
may have
okay.
worded that.
I think she's going to be bringing us.
So I'll be bringing the fees to you in July for consideration and hopefully
You said something,
approval.
we said earlier, post something online for people to be able to read.
The rate evaluations will be online that I've shared with you guys and we'll make those available like we have years past. I don't know, I'm not sure what
I
I
just don't
said.
want-
I think the part is just that once we'll make a decision, Mike, we'll say, look, this is what it's going to be, and it's gonna be in effect,
Right.
it's gonna take effect
Yeah.
in September.
But not, let's not talk potential and throw numbers up.
No, she's gonna say, no, we're gonna.
No, yeah, I'm sorry if I was misleading or confusing there. My apologies. That's not what I was planning on doing.
Regarding this, I really like spacing it out. Again, we're setting aside. You know, we're planning ahead for the future infrastructure projects that we have to do as well as maintenance, whatnot. So we're setting that 10% aside. We're also trying to set aside the future growth or the future improvements that we do. If we can spread this out over 10 years and not do 1.3 or 1.5, like Danielle alluded to, and then raise those rates again 4%. I say it's a win-win because we're gonna be more efficient. We're not gonna have to raise rates and we can pay this whole system off
That's why I
over
was
time.
curious, will this discussion have to wait until budget time? Is it something that you would ask us to take a look at sooner? I'm just asking, no, it's off the flies.
I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do, it's definitely going to be a discussion during budget. It is if you guys want me to prepare numbers, what it would be just to replace the meters compared to going this route, I can do that. My recommendation to council is to go with smart meters that will do the auto reads. Again, because the cost savings, but more importantly, because the customer service component of that.
Would it be premature to have them start getting some numbers around so that we can view them prior to budget?
So they have done budgetary numbers for you guys already. That I think you guys are gonna send me that, correct, and I'll share with the council.
Okay.
If I would defer to them if you guys want something more in depth, but I would not want to do anything until the budget's approved as far as like
Right.
spending and narrowing that
Right,
down.
right.
Again, I kind of put in the 1.5, I think it would come in under.
Resend an email, please, if you would be so kind.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
Yeah,
information.
tiptoe around that cautiously, because I don't think, this is Blissfield, and some people may not say 4% is not worth the customer service, and I mean, that's just,
Well-
we know that that's how it's been, so.
It has been, but we still, I mean, for her to send it to us, so we can see the
Yes.
numbers.
But I'm not sure 4% increase in consumption rates offsets somebody's feelings on customer service. Again,
Well-
we know that it's always about the dollar.
They also see how many people come in here begging for mercy on their water bills, including a guy who had $12,000 that we forgave, so.
Wow.
That's not customer service, that's.
No, I'm saying this system could eliminate all of that,
It would.
or help to.
So if between Danielle, your email, that I just state that the information you could provide in an email, and then Andre, if you can provide us then Danielle with the numbers that you are thinking of, but I think one of you guys had said something about having the details onto it, that's what we would certainly need, your numbers.
Because the potential of adding on those shut-offs probably would be great for some customers, and we didn't quote that for anything, right?
That the 1.3 does not
The
include
1.5 does, yeah, and that's why I
1.5
did it at that amount. And again, I would not recommend all, but I think that's why they gave that range because of the potential to those add-ons or additional things.
That 1.5 does include the auto shut offs?
Yeah, not 100%, just.
Yeah.
Just of course.
I don't think we need one for every. Awesome, guys.
Thank you for your.
Good stuff, I learned a lot.
I think you actually had a question.
Mhm.
You have a question, Jackie?
I did, I had a question and a comment. We're talking about billing, if the billing could be your bill from the first of the month till the end of the month. Your bill would be consistent, because the way it is now, you might be billed, your water bill for 28 days, 29 days, 30 days, 32 days. That way you could look back from month to month and say, okay, or from year to year, for the same February that it was, 28 or 29 days. And that's how much it was to anticipate a 4% raise or whatever, to know it would be consistent rather than that variance of, I've had 5 days variable, how many days, And I have a question, where are these meters manufactured?
They're assembled in Tennessee, the Neptune meters are in Alabama, 20 minutes from where I live. Yeah.
So they're American made.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And me, kind of to talk about your first point, Jackie, with the new system, we would be able to do that. Because where
Exactly.
you're seeing the difference now is when DPW is out reading and then all of a sudden we have a water break or we have an ice storm hit and they've got to go do tree
Exactly.
removal and then go back to reading.
Yeah,
as
so,
needed.
my water will be down for
15,
the
16
last month, think, oh, well, it's only 28 days, so the next month, it's gonna be, you know,
Right.
4 to 5 days higher.
Yeah, I should add the Eclair AMI system is made in Cole, Ohio.
Yeah.
So 3 hours, 4 hours.
So if we did have to do mailings, that's almost $12,000 savings a year. That's, it's like $1,000 right a month to send
And
out
we
the
can't
mail.
send emails now.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
yeah, but if I think it becomes more efficient if it's in that system, right, to where people have access to
Yeah,
log in or whatever.
Okay, you can do that to your customer portal.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of the give, in the piecemeal, how much do I want to invest now versus what does it say?
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great.